Hello and welcome to Granada Reports, live with the latest across the Northwest.
Hello, thanks for joining us on the programme this evening.
Tonight, the brakes go on, charging drivers in the clear air zone. We're live with the latest.
Repackaged, rehashed and recycled. Doubts about the long-awaited levelling up plan.
A safe haven, the refuge saving women's lives but struggling to pay its way.
The demand has drastically increased. Our waiting list is really long and we're continuously worrying that as funding comes to an end, we have to find that funding, and that has certainly got more difficult.
Lancashire's superstar skier goes for gold at the Winter Olympics.
You have no authority here, Jackie Weaver. No authority at all.
At a year to the day since that council meeting went viral, we catch up with the Jackie Weaver.
Well, first tonight, and a major U-turn from Greater Manchester Mayor Andy Burnham. He's announced he wants to scrap the controversial charges proposed for vehicles entering the planned clean air zone throughout the area.
It follows fierce opposition from small businesses, taxi firms and hauliers. Some were facing charges of up to £60 a day to drive high-emission vehicles in and out of Greater Manchester. Well, let's cross live now to our correspondent, Anne O'Connor. Anne.
Yes, Lucy, next to a busy Eccles New Road, not far from the signs that people will have spotted all over Greater Manchester announcing that clean air zone in May, the chargeable clean air zone. Weeks after they went up, they're probably wrong, because today Andy Burnham said he wanted to make it non-chargeable for now. He says the government has imposed too tight a deadline, 2024, for the people of Greater Manchester to reduce illegal emissions, not least because post-pandemic there aren't enough green vehicles for people to convert to. Boris Johnson has called his scheme unworkable. So not for the first time, Andy Burnham finds himself in an argument with the Prime Minister.
I have been listening to what people are saying. I do a phone-in on the radio every week. And last year, people were putting their concerns to me. I have been listening. I have taken action. And I've now, if you like, stood up for people by putting it back to the government and say, stop your politics, sort this out. Let's get a solution that cleans up the air, but protects jobs, businesses and livelihoods.
Well, I'm joined tonight by taxi drivers David and Derek. You had planned a protest for tomorrow. David, is that going ahead?
It is, yes.
Why?
Because the announcement only says that Andy Burnham has asked for something. We've been asking for this for 3 years. So until we get an answer, we've got to carry on.
He says it's for now. Are you satisfied with that?
Again, no, because we managed to obtain the extra 12 months for taxi and private hire vehicles, Greater Manchester licence for 12 months anyway. We obtained that 6 months ago with workshops with local authorities. So I don't actually see that anything has changed yet.
Derek, how are you feeling tonight, you and your colleagues?
Well, I think it's welcoming news to start with, but I think it's smoke and mirrors, and it has been from Andy Burnham for quite a long time. So let's check the fine detail before we start getting too excited at the moment.
To both of you, surely the only way to cut emissions is to fine people, is to hit them in their pocket. He's got to do it.
No, not at all. If you're finding people and you're hitting them in the pocket, you're making the availability and possibility to actually buy a new car more difficult. So the government instructed them to introduce a clean air zone. That's true. What they didn't instruct them to do was to introduce a charging zone.
So
and
you
certainly
want to see something like Leeds, don't you?
That's right. Leeds introduced traffic calming measures in order to avoid charging the general public and small businesses. That's what we want to see.
Derek, that protest still goes ahead tomorrow. Where's it starting?
Yes, so it's tomorrow, Thursday, and it's from the Etihad Stadium, starting from 10:30, and it's at Gate 2, Alan Turing Way.
This will go on, and we will keep you updated. Back to you.
Yeah, thanks, Sam. We'll have more on that tomorrow. Well, moving on to other news tonight, Manchester United's Mason Greenwood has been released on bail now after being questioned by police over the alleged rape and assault of a woman. The 20-year-old was arrested on Sunday. Yesterday, he was further arrested on suspicion of sexual assault and threats to kill. United say he won't train with or play for the club until further notice.
Manchester City's Benjamin Mendy has appeared in court to face a new allegation of attempted rape. The footballer now faces 9 charges in all, including 7 counts of rape involving 6 different women. He's due to stand trial in the summer.
Well, next up, the long-awaited plan to close the gap between rich and poor parts of the country.
The strategy, unveiled by Levelling Up Secretary Michael Gove, aims to help people live better with more money in their pocket and access to better jobs on their doorstep.
The government says it will shift power and opportunities towards overlooked communities. Labour, though, describe it as a repackaged, rehashed and recycled set of policies which show the Prime Minister is out of ideas.
We'll have reaction from people living in Knowsley in a moment, but first let's cross to Westminster and our political correspondent, Leisha Manali. Leisha, we've heard again and again about levelling up. Has anything actually changed for the North West today?
Well, Gamal, I think the major change today is that we finally have set out in black and white exactly what levelling up is. This is that much delayed white paper. It's pretty long, around 300 pages, although some of it summarises what's already been achieved, including the 12 projects in the North West that have already received money from the Levelling Up Fund. What's new, though, is the government have now set out 12 levelling up missions, and they cover everything from literacy to life expectancy, including rolling out more mayors like Steve Rotherham and Andy Burnham to any areas in the North West that want a devolution deal, bringing local transport closer to London-style standards and increasing the number of people completing high-skilled training. Now, it doesn't come with any new money. This is more about the principle than the policy. What it does do, though, is give voters effectively the tools they'll need to mark the government's homework, to see whether or not they are being levelled up. And the most interesting thing about them is they have a deadline, the year 2030. That's well after the next election. So these are really, really high stakes for the former Red Wall. It was the levelling up promise that helped the Conservatives win 12 seats in the North West in 2019. They'll very much want to do it again. But by 2024, the job will only be half done. And the big question is, will voters see it as a work in progress or too little, too late? Well, I put that to James Daly, who represents Bury North. It's the most marginal seat in the country.
You know, one of the things that politicians often perhaps justifiably get criticised for is they're looking at what happens, only looking 24 hours in advance. This is actually a plan not only for people who are 16, 17, who are 30, 35, who are in the job market now. It's for people who are at school. It's looking to ensure that they, no matter their background, no matter the challenges in their life, that they are going to get the opportunities as soon as possible. So I think that the government shouldn't be criticised for a bold vision.
Now, of course, critics say the whole ethos of the levelling up agenda is flawed, that it forces struggling communities to compete against each other, bidding for smaller pots of money that doesn't come anywhere near matching those lost to council cuts and the EU.
What we don't have is any sort of plan to put this right, any commitment from the Treasury to put in the funding that we deserve. This is our money, and yet we're not getting most of it back. It's so ridiculous that they've actually written off more in fraud in the last few weeks than they have handed out through the Levelling Up funds.
So is this just a slogan or the start of genuine change? Well, Elaine Wilcox has spent the day in Knowsley to find out how hopeful people there feel about the promise of levelling up.
Baby massage is a time for relaxation, but what the future holds for their babies already weighs heavily on the minds of these new mums.
Knowsley is like a forgotten borough. There's a lack of schools, there's a lack of doctors, there's a lack of healthcare workers, there's a lack of everything.
Hannah McGarrigle's a teacher and has seen more cuts than increases in provision.
That provision isn't there by the time she's at that age and she wants to go to a sixth form, then we'd have to look at moving somewhere else.
And moving here from London, Steph Curry has seen the north-south divide firsthand.
Places like nurseries and childcare at the moment, is looking at it's quite difficult to see what's the future going to be like when, you know, Isabella's 15, 20.
And it's already concerning you now?
It is, yeah.
In its levelling up missions, there's a promise of better local transport, access to broadband and 5G, and shifting power from Whitehall to town halls and regional mayors. Revamped town centres are central, but plans to redevelop Knowsley Shopping Centre has been rejected by the government 3 times. Despite being identified by the government as a priority for investment, Knowsley has received absolutely nothing from all of the 4 main regeneration and levelling up funds. Local leaders say today's announcement is nothing more than slogans.
If Knowsley, areas like Knowsley, don't seem to qualify, it calls into question the whole credibility of the policy. Government should govern for the whole of the country, not just for those who vote for them. And I think this Prime Minister, Michael Gove, would do well to remember that.
There are more powers for local leaders, for mayors and for strong leaders in counties and districts. And there's also there's a framework which will hold us to account for that spending as well.
You're telling me this is what you need, and that's...
Young people at this community hub in Liverpool are acutely aware where you live affects your life chances.
I'm sick of hearing adults telling us what we need. Deprived area, the lack of opportunities, the lack of safe spaces, the lack of places like this can really either make or break a situation.
In the future, I'd love to be able to own my own house, live somewhere that I know is mine, but I don't feel that hopeful I'll probably be able to do that.
The government says it's changing the economic model to level up northern towns and cities. But with child mortality rising faster on Merseyside, there's little time to spare. Elaine Wilcox, ITV News, Knowsley.
Well, next, and when someone in the northwest escapes domestic abuse, they can go to one of the 33 refuges across the region.
Well, as we heard last night, sadly, there is no shortage of people, women and men, who need help to get away from violent relationships. We'll remind you of some of the help available after tonight's report on a refuge in Bolton.
Tonight, we continue the story of Chantal, who fled to the Fort Alice refuge with her children. Tasha Kachiri has more.
The gates take a while to close, so I just stood there watching them close, and I knew he wasn't behind me. My whole body just relaxed.
Chantal fled with her children in order to escape years of abuse from their dad. She came to Fort Alice with nothing.
When we talk about how bad does it have to be, it can be horrendous. People can be literally on a razor's edge of being murdered. But equally, there can be that consistent drip feed and that consistent fear. And suddenly there's a reality that they realise just how much danger they're in. And really they need to actually get out.
There are 22 self-contained flats here. Each one has the ability to house a family.
The first thing I remember coming in, it was warm, because it wasn't warm in my house. It was warm and there was someone behind that desk just smiling at you. I just remember the key. I was like, wow, I've even got a door key. I was in control of who was coming in and out of my door.
And that's the first time in years.
Yeah, I had a door key, yeah. I felt free, that I felt safe.
All 22 flats are always full. The women can self-refer or be referred by local services and often come with the clothes on their backs. So what do they need when they first walk through those doors?
The first thing that's really important is that understanding of what their journey has been like. And then from there, there's a lot of practicalities. So there's things such as maybe sometimes it's clothes, toiletries. There's all the basics that we would need to start to live again in a new home.
There isn't just one approach to dealing with the trauma of domestic abuse. The women get all-round support, from help with self-esteem to parenting, to mental health and everything in between. Their children get a range of support too.
I got my independence back and they believed in me. They supported me instead of saying you're not good enough and taking my kids off me. They supported me being the person I am today, and that belief made me believe in myself. It made my kids believe in me, so I did it.
Fort Alice is more than a refuge. The organisation does a lot of outreach work in the community. They also train professionals like doctors, police officers and teachers in order to give them the tools to spot domestic abuse, handle it, or refer people to the right services so that they can get the help that they need. For the women here, Fort Alice is a lifeline. Where do you think you would be if Fort Alice didn't exist?
Dead. Dead.
That was really quick.
Dead. I wouldn't be here. Definitely wouldn't be here. I think I would have lost my kids if I didn't come here.
The Refuges chief executive, Jill Smallwood, says it's hard to keep the vital services going.
The demand has drastically increased. Our waiting list is really long, and we're continuously worrying that as funding comes to an end, we have to find that funding, and that has certainly got more difficult.
Refuges across the northwest have struggled to get funding due to the pandemic, but they continue to do what they can with what they have. Because of Fort Alice, Chantel and her children can now live the lives that most of us take for granted, living without fear and being able to plan for the future.
I just want my kids to be happy and eventually get back in uni, get my degree, show my kids what we're capable of, that we're strong and we can survive anything.
Tasha Kachiri, ITV News.
Well, there's lots of information about help available on our website. We've had a huge reaction to these reports, with many of you sharing your experiences of domestic violence at the hands of men and women.
Yeah, 1 in 4 women and 1 in 6 men will experience some form of domestic abuse in their lifetime. And while our reports have been focused on Fort Alice, which is a women's refuge, there is also help and support out there for men.
And as I say, you can find more information about how to get help if you or anyone you know is affected by heading over to our website at itv.com/Granada.
OK, on to sport now. And the champion skier who's sloping off to the Olympics, Chris.
Yes, there'll be more expectation than ever on Lancashire's Dave Riding when he heads to the Winter Olympics this week. His World Cup win last month, the first ever by a British skier, will give the slalom specialist plenty of confidence that he can challenge for a medal. Victoria Grimes has caught up with him at his cafe in Tarleton before he jets off to Beijing.
He's a racer who dared to dream the impossible dream and made it happen, making history in the process.
Has it sunk in yet, big man?
Yeah, it has sunk in a bit more, and seeing my family was a good thing to let it sink in, and obviously my fiancée Mandy. Yeah. Hopefully I've encouraged a whole new wave of kids and shown what's possible, because I've always been saying, work hard and you can do it. Now I don't have to talk, now I can just say, watch that video, and that's what you can achieve from a little dry slope in Lancashire, living in Costa del Tarleton. And yeah, but yeah, it was nice to get back. Everyone said, what's it like to be home? Is it weird? I'm like, no, it's nice. This is where I live. This is my normality. Come back here for a coffee and a cake, and that was what I wanted to do.
Your mum and dad and Mandy all said it was a relief that you'd won.
I've had a great career. I've done more than I ever dreamed of. I've done more than what anyone else has done. But there's always this nagging thing in my head. The icing on the cake is to win one of these things, whether it be a World Cup or the Olympics or whatever. It was nice to know that, my parents were at home and Mandy was at home watching it, and their sacrifices as well. It's like it's been for, getting the first British World Cup Alpine victory ever. So it was a relief, yeah.
Dave's now got his sights set on the Winter Olympics.
Is it difficult having that amount of pressure on you? Because it must have been multiplied by about 1,000 times since this win in Kitzbühel.
Yeah, that's certainly what everyone expects. It took me 97 World Cups to win one. So yeah, everyone's expecting the next thing to be the Olympics. But I've shown that I can do it. And it also shows to me that the processes I'm doing and the way I'm skiing is working, so don't change anything. Expectation from everyone else through the roof, but that's fine. I've dealt with it before. It's my 4th Olympics. It's one race, never been there. Anything can happen.
And any danger of you retiring in the near future?
I think I'd be daft to not do it at least another year, because I'm still in such good shape. But I would like to bring a bit more enjoyment to my racing, because racing's stressful. The pressure to perform, it's tough. I'm almost scared to dream because I know the hard work that comes with it. So it's I'll have to sit down after the season, speak to the boss, which is Mandy, get a plan. We're getting married in May, so obviously I've got to. I don't even know. She's done it all, bless her. But so I've got to at least do something for that, and then I'll get cracking again.
Don't be using all your energy on the Olympics, because you're needed in the kitchen in here, definitely.
I hope it's not as cold in China, because jeepers.
And as for the trophy, it'll eventually live in Boskins.
Not going to take it to bed, are you, like you did last time? Because you were going to sleep with it.
No, even too big, pointy. And
Victoria Grimes, ITV News, Tarleton.
wedding and the Winter Olympics. He's got a big few months ahead of him, hasn't he? Anyway, good luck to Dave Riding this week at the Winter Olympics. In football now, Everton have sacked the head coach of their women's team after just 10 games. Jean-Luc Vasseur took charge in October when the club were 8th in Super League. They're now 10th with only 3 league wins all season. It's the Women's League Cup semi-finals tonight. Carna Solskjaer, daughter, of course, of Ollie Solskjaer, could be rested for this one after taking the headlines on her Manchester United debut at the weekend. Her teammates are up against Chelsea and hoping to move a huge step closer to their first major trophy after a run of 7 straight wins have transformed their season.
Any opponent we can go out and if we play our football we know we can compete with, and I think that the belief from within the group and around the camp is what drives us to go out on a weekend and get the 3 points, and I think it's been massive. We always believe in one another, of course we do, but at the same time when we have results to back it up and performances to back it up, it helps boost the momentum going forward.
Great sport.
Or next, it became the most famous parish council meeting in the world, seen by millions, and in the starring role was standing clerk Jackie Weaver trying to keep the peace.
Yeah, it was Handforth Parish Council, which all got very lively, you might remember, last February. Who can forget that repeated phrase, "You have no authority here, Jackie Weaver." Well, the meeting ended in chaos, to put it mildly. Jackie's a bit of a celebrity herself now, and she's been chatting to me about that. But first, Paul Crone has been back to where it all began, in Handforth.
So it's almost a year since Handforth sort of became the centre of the universe. News crews descended here in their droves. Why? Because of this.
You have no authority here, Jackie Weaver. No authority at all.
The Cheshire town of Handforth has returned to normal, but memories of that fractious Zoo meeting haven't been forgotten.
It was just like a comedy, and I'm thinking nothing like this ever happens in Handforth. This has put Handforth on a map.
This is a meeting called by 2 councillors.
Illegally?
They now elect a chairman.
No, they can't, because the vice chair's here. I take charge.
From a stand-in clerk at a tiny parish council meeting to a household name has brought Jackie Weaver a level of fame she could never have foreseen.
What a year it's been. How much has your life changed in that time?
That is such an interesting question, because my first reaction is to say it hasn't changed at all, which I know seems like a really ridiculous thing to say. But actually, I still do the day job. I still work with my town and parish councils. I still have a family. Last time I saw them. So all of that continues. None of that has changed. But kind of slotted in is this kind of almost like alternative life that I have of like being here today.
What was it like when you found out you were trending?
You know that thing where you really don't get it, but you're embarrassed to say, I haven't got a clue what you're talking about. So you go, that's interesting. And I thought, I suppose I better look into this. So I thought, I know, ask a young person. If you want to know anything about social media, ask a young person. So I contacted my son, and he said, oh, don't worry about it, Mum, it'll be a mistake. So I never gave it any more thought than that.
Of course, there's so much tension on national politics at the moment. How much sympathy do you have for Sue Gray?
I think it's clearly a challenging task. I guess perhaps the challenging bit is not doing the investigation, but the challenging bit is what comes next.
Are you surprised by the way that that's been handled?
Surprised, no. Disappointed, yes. Yeah, I mean, who wouldn't be?
But is it important that we expect good behaviour at the top from our politicians?
Do we?
Don't we?
I don't think we do. Should we? Yes. Do we? I suspect not. I mean, one of the things that I've been highlighting over the last 12 months is about behaviour in government.
I wonder as well how you feel about national politics often overshadowing what goes on our doorstep, which is obviously on Granada Reports. We're very keen on what goes on the doorstep as well.
I think that people look at national politics and they have that sense of whatever I do, I can't influence that. And, you know, it's not a perception. For me, that's a reality. You are not really, man in the street, woman in the street, going to have any impact on what's happening in national politics. But, oh my goodness, why don't you look a bit closer to home and see what an amazing difference you can make if you get involved in local democracy?
But it's too much like hard work, isn't it?
Yeah. But can you think of anything that you do in life that is worthwhile, that doesn't require a bit of an investment?
And meanwhile, Jackie Weaver is a celebrity.
Apparently.
Well, you are. You're everywhere.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that.
And what about Celebrity Mastermind? How are you feeling about that? Are we allowed to know what your specialist subject is? It's got to be local government.
The Chronicles of Riddick.
Wow, OK.
I mean, local government, oh, come on. I mean, even I get bored with it sometimes.
Jackie Weaver, it's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to say it. I love Jackie Weaver.
Oh, do you know, she is just a total star.
It's awesome. She's like a motivational speaker.
Absolutely. And that message about local politicians and the good work that they do, I think it's really important because people are losing sight of that a bit at the moment.
We can all learn a lot from Jackie Weaver. She does have authority in this studio.
Yeah, we're listening to her. Love chatting to Jackie. We had so much to talk about. There's a much longer version and lots of fun in it on our website.
Now for the weather, here's Jo.
That sunshine really made your eyeshadow pop, you know. And you put the wipe in the bin, not the toilet.
United Utilities sponsors ITV Granada weather.
Go ahead, Queen.
Thank you. A very good evening to you. A misty, murky old day today. And overnight tonight, mist and fog will reform, particularly in the Pennines, the southern uplands, the Cumbrian Fells. It's been mild today. We're frost-free tonight and again mild tomorrow, but some colder air will be digging in tomorrow night. The proximity of high pressure giving us this settled day today. And again for tomorrow, it's almost felt like spring. But colder air will be moving in behind that rain tomorrow night. Perhaps there'll be some sleet and snow right on the tops of the hills the early hours of Friday. Friday will feel cold. The weekend temperatures will recover, but it's rather dull and damp. Now back to this evening, northwest England, the Isle of Man, fairly quiet, settled, free from frost. Still a breeze, some low cloud, mistiness and a few fog patches and maybe some patchy rain or drizzle out of thicker cloud as we go through the night tonight. On to tomorrow. First of all, the sun will be up at 7:54, setting at 4:56 tomorrow afternoon. Bit of a slow start to the day tomorrow with mist and fog in the Pennines, patchy light rain and drizzle working its way west to east through tomorrow morning. Behind it though, brighter skies. Tomorrow afternoon should be largely dry for most of us. Still hanging on to some low cloud up in the tops of the Pennines and the Cumbrian Fells again. But for most of us, a dry end to the day, a mild 10 or 11 Celsius, bit of a breeze and cloud picking up, certainly thickening up through tomorrow evening ahead of some rain that will be moving in. Behind that rain, maybe a bit of sleet and snow on the tops of the Pennines to start Friday. Friday will feel colder across the board, blustery with a few showers. It's chilly Friday night into Saturday. Temperatures recover, but it's a damp, dull weekend.
United Utilities sponsors ITV Granada weather.
Those eyebrows are unreal.
That's it. Goodbye.